Well, as we all know, or should know, if you don't know, you're not paying any attention, the Obama administration is out to get the Little Sisters of the Poor. The lawsuit is Obama administration versus Little Sisters of the Poor. I bet you they wish it were someone else, but that's not the only one that the Obama administration is going after. As you know, they're trying to get a lot of people to violate their religious beliefs, Little Sisters of the Poor among them. We have, from the Beckett Fund on today's program, Montse Alvarado, who's currently in Montreal doing work for the Beckett Fund. We want to talk about, since the Beckett Fund is representing a lot of these organizations, how is the battle going on religious freedom versus Barack Hussein Obama? Stay tuned.
It's time for the Newsmaker Show on News Talk AM 1480 WLEA. Here's Kevin Torres.
Montse Alvarado in Montreal. I was only there once, and many years ago, and it was during the attempt by French-speaking Quebecers to pretend they didn't speak English. Maybe they're still doing that. I don't know. Are they still doing that?
Yes, they're very French-speaking.
Yeah. Well, I got over the border from New York. I mean, I could have thrown a rock or a baseball from where I was in Canada back into the States, and I pulled in to get some gas. And on the way to Montreal, and this guy says to me, car full of kids, in French, pretending he doesn't speak English. I don't speak English, he's saying in French. I thought, well, give me a break, pal. I know perfectly well. That was how they did it, remember? I don't know, are they still doing that?
Yes.
So then when we got there, I wanted to give my kids a ride on a subway. Came out of a hotel, don't know which one it was. And these are little kids, maybe 10 or 12. And this particular one, I said, you've never been on a subway, I'll take you on a subway. So I came out and I met this guy and I said, where's the subway? I said, the train, the underground. So right in front of the guy, I said to my son, here we are in all of Montreal, we have to meet the dumbest guy in the whole town. And of course he couldn't say anything because that would indicate he understood, which he did. He certainly understood. They're still doing that foolishness, huh?
A little bit less. I will say people are pretty much more bilingual. The new generation is much more bilingual. Yeah. So,
well, this guy was bilingual, too.
Maybe you visit again.
Yeah. This guy was bilingual. He was just, this was their protest. They weren't going to speak English. All right, that's not why I called you. I called you about the Poor Little Sisters of the Poor, a very devout order of Catholic nuns. Actually, they're not nuns, they're sisters, but there's a difference between sisters and nuns, as you may know, Montse. But most of us say nuns when we really mean sisters. They are on the receiving end of the Obama administration mandate that they must provide contraceptive and abortion care for their employees. I don't think it's something Little Sisters are going to need, but their employees. And they're not doing it. And other organizations, Catholic and other organizations that are not Catholic, are saying, no, we're not going to do it. And they're turning to the Beckett Fund to represent them. And my question is, how are you folks in the Beckett Fund doing defending these victims?
Well, it turns out that we're doing pretty well, thanks to a lot of very hard work. We're 18 to 20. So 18 to 20 of these cases have been ruled in favor of religious freedom for those that are seeking a nonprofit exemption from the HHS mandate. And the Little Sisters in particular it's very interesting because the kind of work that they do is so necessary to society. I mean, they carry out a religious ministry, which they've been doing for over 175 years, in which they care for the neediest in society as if they were Christ. So when I say the neediest, I mean the elderly, poor, and dying. Mm-hmm. And they've been doing this in over 30 homes in the United States and more than 180 homes worldwide. So that's over 13,000 people that are receiving this really important care. And now they're being faced with a very, very difficult choice that they're being forced to make by the administration, in which they want them to choose between this ministry and paying very, very large fines in order to continue providing this care without giving their employees access to contraceptives and abortifacients, which are against their religious convictions.
Okay, now, cheers for the Little Sisters. Because even Sotomayor, Justice Sotomayor, who probably is a strong supporter of Obama, he appointed her to the court, even she said, no, you can't force them into this. And then it went back to the court. Now, didn't the court once rule that you've got to do this? What's the standing with the Supreme Court?
Well, they've just given them permission to go through with their case. So they've said, no, the last time that you went to court, they were wrong. You do have a case, even though they deny it, so now they have to hear your case. So at the end of the month, we'll be filing our brief to get that ball rolling. But they basically said that the Little Sisters shouldn't be pressured to partake in a government contraceptive delivery scheme against their religious beliefs. I mean, they didn't rule on the merits, but the message to us is, hey, keep fighting. And so that's exactly what we're going to do.
Okay, now you said 18 of 20 cases the Beckett Fund has taken up. You've won so far.
I'm saying that in general. So those aren't just Beckett cases.
Okay.
You've got 91 cases total in the entire HHS mandate controversy. So those are businesses, nonprofits, religious nonprofits, all kinds of individuals that are seeking an exemption because this mandate goes against their religious convictions. And then within just the nonprofit structure, you've got 20 cases, 18 of which have already won their case. Very interesting.
Yeah,
Beckett represents 10 clients, and we have 9 cases.
Okay.
In all of those different pieces.
Okay. So the courts apparently are saying, wait a minute, this isn't quite right. We ought not to be forcing these people to go against their own religious beliefs. Am I getting that right, or are there other technicalities?
It seems to me that that's what's happening, because the government has plenty of ways to get contraceptives to people. And it doesn't have to force people like the Little Sisters of the Poor to partake in this, as I said, contraceptive delivery scheme. I mean, it already exempts tens of millions of Americans and 96% of businesses for purely political and economic reasons. But it's chosen not to give these kind of exemptions for religious reasons.
Let me be blunt with you, Monse. A lot of commentators believe that the Obama administration, being anti-Christian, is really out to win a point here, that the government is more powerful than any religion or anyone's freedom of conscience. Is that overstating it, or is that really what's going on here?
I'm not exactly sure that I can say that, but I will say that they're drawing a very, very thin line between who is religious enough and who isn't in the eyes of the government.
That strikes a lot of people as the sort of thing you'd run into in Nazi Germany and or any communist country when communism reigned. Not today in Russia. Russia today is far more favorable toward religion than our own government. But there was a time, of course, when they were terrible. What's your reaction to that comment by many, many people, not just religious people, but people who are just observers of what's going on?
Well, I mean, I think the administration's actions are they're being countered by the courts in many ways, and 90% of justices have ruled in our favor, so we really hope that by going to the Supreme Court, we'll have the same results that they've had.
All right, let me back up now. A lot of people, and I'm going to include myself in this, a lot of people were convinced that when Obamacare got to the court, for a variety of reasons, the court would say, Supreme Court now, not the ones underneath, the Supreme Court would say, no, this is unconstitutional. You can't force people and then fine them if they don't buy your plans in health insurance. And the court, to the amazement of many people, said, yeah, this is perfectly all right. Are you hopeful or confident, now there's a difference, hopeful or confident that the court, the Supreme Court, is going to back up the religious freedom clause of the Constitution against Barack Obama's administration?
Well, I really can't speculate on that, but I will say one thing, that the last time that the Becket Fund went to the Supreme Court, it was for a case, I don't know if you remember it, Hosanna Tabor, in favor of the ministerial exemption, so allowing religious organizations to choose their leaders, which is something very important. And we did not know what the outcome of that case was going to be, and we ended up winning 9-0. So the entire court, the entire Supreme Court ruled on our side, and it was unexpected and amazing, but it was in the name of freedom. And so we hope to see the same kind of support for religious freedom 2 years later, with very different clients and very different facts, but we've been fighting very, very hard to have a result that would be fair to our clients.
What was the name of that case again? I remember it, but give me the name again.
Hosanna Tabor.
Yeah, wasn't that the Lutheran school that decided that they could pick their own professors, and the Obama administration said, no, you've got to hire this one, and they said no.
Well, they're religious leaders, so there's a big difference there. They're ministers and religious leaders.
Yeah. So, well, we can always hope. We'll take a break and get back with Montse Alvarado, who's currently in Montreal, normally works in the Washington area. I assume she is with the Becket Fund, and the Becket Fund is fighting for our, O-U-R, our religious freedom, which we all thought was in the Constitution, and we never had to worry about it until Barack Obama. Stay tuned. Okay, for those of you joining us late, I'm talking with Montse. Let me spell it for you because I know the whole world is wondering on this. M-O-N-T-S-E. Now, I'm pretty good on Irish names. That is not an Irish name. Is that a Hispanic name, I assume?
It is. I'm Mexican.
Alvarado. That's easy enough. We know that's Hispanic, right. I've never heard the name Montse before. Tell me about that. Where did that name come from?
It's short. It's short for Montserrat, and it's
Montserrat.
in Spain.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. So is your real name Montserrat Alvarado?
Yes, but I go by Montse because it's much easier to pronounce.
Well, I would have no trouble with Montserrat, but I can see what you're saying. On the other hand, I've never seen Montse. I've seen Montserrat as a first name. I have a granddaughter named Faustina, which is very common in the Mexican community, but my daughter picked that name because she had a great devotion to Saint Faustina, first canonized saint in the 21st century. But Faustina is a common name among the Hispanics, too, is it not?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Now, let me ask you something. As long as we're going into that topic of names, I was thinking about this just the other day, and you're the first Hispanic I've had a chance to talk to about this. Jesus is a name that I don't think any other group other than Hispanics, Spanish-speaking people, use as a first name for young boys. Am I right about that?
I would say yes, because I've never seen it anywhere else.
No, they pronounce it Jesus, but a lot of people don't realize that's really Jesus they're saying, right?
Yeah, Jesus, right. I have a lot of uncles named Jesus.
Yeah. I think that's the only language in the world. This is not a criticism, just a fact. I think it's the only language in the world where they actually use the name Jesus as a first name. So there, we've settled that. Let's go back now to Obama versus the religious freedom of the American people. And for those of you who didn't hear the first part of the show, Montse Alvarado is with the Becket Fund. They've taken up the battle on behalf of many organizations of various groups, Catholics, Protestants, no religious affiliation. I assume you've done that. But people who say this violates my conscience, there are a total of 91 cases currently in the courts. 18 out of 20 cases that have been settled in favor of religious freedom in this conflict with the Obama administration. Did I get those facts right, Monsi?
You did. You got them right.
All right, good. Well, now, I think from talking with you that people who are worried, and if they're not, they should be, worried about our religious freedom in this country should be encouraged by what the courts have done so far. Fair statement?
Definitely. Definitely. We definitely want, and on top of that, we definitely do want people to feel that way. And we're trying to get out into the public square to talk about this because we should never lose hope. We should never lose hope because the question here is that as Americans, is this the kind of people that we want to be? And the more people become engaged and informed, and we have a lot of resources on our website to help out with that, HHS Mandate Central actually tracks every single one of the cases and gives you all of the information that you need to find the case that's nearest to you. The most important thing that you can do is support all of these organizations and businesses that are going out, sticking their necks out for you, basically, and on behalf of your religious freedom. So the Beckett Fund is defending them, but our clients are the courageous individuals that are actually putting their livelihood on the line because this is obviously a controversial issue in order to be able to fight in the courts for this very important right.
Now, did you take the Holly Lobby? What is it?
Ooh, Hobby Lobby.
Hobby Lobby, yeah. We don't have one around here. That's why I wasn't sure how to say it.
I didn't have one growing up either.
Apparently
it's incredible.
Did the Beckett Fund take on that group? I mean, did you represent them?
Hobby Lobby is our largest client. They are fighting as a for-profit with very, very clear religious convictions that they do not want to violate. And it's interesting because they only object to 4 of the contraceptives on the list, so 4 of the 16, and they're the ones that even the FDA has said have taken attempts or have a way of creating an abortion. So they're abortifacients, as we would call them.
Yeah. Well, Obama is probably the most pro-abortion president we've ever had, or any country's ever had, for that matter, except for the communists under Stalin. But he's very, very pro-abortion. And Hobby Lobby is a private business. As I recall, they're evangelicals. Is that what it is?
They are.
Yeah.
Yes.
Evangelicals, Missouri Synod Lutherans, Catholics, and Mormons are the only ones still fighting this kind of thing. And what's interesting is that these private companies, for-profit companies, also feel that their consciences are being violated. What happened with Hobby Lobby? Where is that right now?
So that's actually, it was accepted by the Supreme Court. So they will be hearing the case along with Conestoga. So there are 2 clients in one hearing, and that will happen on March 25th. And we have turned in all of our briefings. It actually was a record briefing. So the number of individuals that submitted amicus briefs or friend of the court briefs in support of our clients was record. They hadn't seen a filing that large in a very, very long time. We had over 56 organizations come out.
Good.
That's a lot of paper.
So it's you and these organizations versus Barack Obama and his enormous government, Eric Holder, and the ACLU, right? The American Civil Liberty. I call it the Anti-Christian Liberties Union. But you have overwhelming numbers on your side, right?
Definitely. We had congressmen and senators. I know that there was a lead for 19 senators that submitted briefs in opposition, but we were 2 to 1. So for every brief that they submitted, we had 2. And we also had women senators and congresswomen on our brief. So.
Well, listen, Monsi, keep up the good work. And it's God's work you're doing and the work of the American Constitution. I have no No fear of saying that, because that's exactly what's at stake here. Thank you, dear, for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now go out from your hotel, ask the guy where the underground is or the subway. See what response you
See
get.
if he answers in English. I will make sure to do that.
All right. Yeah, maybe you'll run into the same guy I did. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. A delightful guest, Monse Alvarado. She normally works in Washington, but we caught her in Montreal and wanted to get an update on the Obama administration versus religious freedom. That's what it is. Hey, listen, you can sit there and say, I like Barack Obama. Fine, I don't care. But that's what's going on here. That's what the battle is. The Missouri Synod Lutherans, the Catholics, evangelicals are the only ones still fighting. But there's a lot of them out there fighting. Now, Notre Dame caved in. Most informed Catholics would not be terribly surprised by that. Notre Dame caved in. They said, oh, yeah, we'll follow this. Yeah, we're not going to fight this. So not all Catholic organizations are fighting, but many others are, and that's important. Well, as I look through the window, I see Glenn Lee talking to one of our salespeople, a female who cannot see up close. So the paper is right up under her nose, and she has glasses. And I wonder, why does she have glasses?
Are you picking on me?
Yes. Why do you have glasses when you have the paper no more than 2 inches from your nose? I thought that's what glasses were for. Stay tuned now for news from NBC. And we have NBC News in the top of the hour, Fox News on the bottom of the hour, and Fox Radio News, by the way, is not a conservative network. And, of course, NBC is not. And then we have, of course, 3 or 4 people in our news department who are always out there breaking the stories first, led by our news director, Brian O'Neill. When it comes to news, the news comes first here at WLEA.